No division has had quite the carousel of champions women's strawweight has. Since its arrival to the UFC in 2014, the belt has changed hands 6 times, and only Joanna Jędrzejczyk defended the title more than twice. With the inaugural strawweight champion Carla Esparza back on top, the deck reshuffled once again, and she'll have her hands full in preventing hearing and new in New York City against a former champion, while the rest of the title picture jockeys for position. This is the state of the women's strawweight division.
And no!
The Cookie Monster's climb back to the mountaintop was historic. When she recaptured the title at UFC 274 over Rose Namajunas, she set the record for the longest time between title reigns at more than 2,500 days. The fight was uneventful though, and left a small slight on Esparza's achievement. She can rectify that, however, when she defends her belt in Madison Square Garden against Zhang Weili. Esparza is perhaps in the form of her life and riding a 6-fight winning streak, and her embodiment of the wrestler's grind makes her an incredibly tough person to unseat from the throne. After a pair of title fight losses to Rose Namajunas, Magnum returned to lethal form in her rematch with Jędrzejczyk at UFC 275. The hotly anticipated rematch of 2020's Fight of the Year turned into a showcase for China's first champion, sealed with a stunning backfist knockout that sent the former strawweight queen into retirement. Perhaps the most explosive fighter in the division, Zhang showed off her well-rounded game in that fight, and she seems primed to give Esparza everything she can handle when she attempts to become the third 2-time strawweight champ at UFC 281. Waiting in the wings is Thug Rose. After her curious performance in which she lost her belt to Esparza at UFC 274, Namajunas is in a bit of a holding pattern for the time being. A Zhang win could set her up for a third fight as she already holds 2 wins over her, but Esparza would likely mean a waiting period. Regardless of who she fights and what stakes are at hand, Namajunas is in the midst of a curious streak. Over her last 12 fights, Namajunas is on a pattern of winning 3 fights in a row but losing the 4th. So, if history is to be trusted, the 2-time champ has another burst of wins coming down the pipe. All that is up in the air is who those fights come against. Since earning her way into the UFC on Dana White's Contender Series, Rodriguez has only suffered defeat twice in 9 fights, one of which came in a razor-close split decision to the current champion. Along the way, the Brazilian Muay Thai specialist has shown stern defensive grappling as well as knockout power, but her recent loss to Amanda Lemos sets her journey to the title back for the time being. Andrade might be the most curious element in the strawweight title picture. Having spent the last couple of years dabbling in the flyweight division, she made her intentions clear after her submission victory over Lemos. She wants to regain the strawweight strap. Pile Driver could have a fair shout at the title if Esparza defends it at UFC 281, and Andrade desperately wants to avenge her loss to Zhang Weili from 2019. Another fight that could be mutually beneficial for both parties is a trilogy bout against Rose Namajunas. That fight makes sense for both women as they try to rebuild their case for another title run. China's first female fighter, Yan Xiaonan, bounced back from back-to-back losses to gut out a majority decision win in her main event against Mackenzie Dern. In that fight, Xiaonan displayed an improved grappling game as well as her signature Sander-based striking. Because her lone 2 UFC losses have come against Esparza and Rodriguez, the path is a little murky for 9. But she could find her way to a title shot after a couple more wins if the cards fall right. Amanda Lemos bounced back from a disappointing submission loss to Jessica Andrade with a dominant submission win of her own against Michelle Waterson. Normally profiled as a knockout artist, Lemos was still in search of a signature win over someone in the top 5 to solidify her status as a real contender. And in beating Rodriguez, she sets herself up for a crucial bout in the coming months. Although more on the outside looking in, Mackenzie Dern remains a lethal threat. With her otherworldly jiu-jitsu, main event experience and ever-improving abilities on the feet, the 29-year-old Dern is very much a threat to anyone she faces in the octagon. The strawweight division remains a whirlwind at the top, with hyper-intriguing matchups galore and a constantly shifting queue when it comes to the title picture. There is no clear number one contender awaiting the winner of Esparza and Zhang, which makes it all the more fascinating and entertaining for the fans of the deepest women's division in the UFC.